Hello and welcome to the Homewrecker podcast. I am the Golden Greek, Alex Arion, joined as always by my beautiful, lovely, gorgeous wife, Monique. Monique, how are you?
Hi, I'm well. And how are you, my dear?
I'm doing great.
Nice.
Or fantastic as always.
Yay.
Both.
Woo.
All of the above.
Nice.
Yeah. So we've got a fun show today.
Yeah.
Which should be quite the conversation. This can go in a lot of different directions. But before we get into our show, I would like to start, if I may. May I?
You may.
Thank you very much. I would like to begin with my favorite thing, which is the Ask Monique segment. I love this so much. It's so fun for me. So here we go.
He doesn't care if it's fun for me as long as it's fun for him.
It's fun for everybody.
I guess if it's fun for those listening,
everybody.
It's okay.
Come on now. We are comparing Monique's answers to that of the woman with the highest reported IQ. So here we go. I'm going to ask Monique a question.
What are you going to say with the most highest IQ?
The highest recorded IQ?
Highest?
Is that what I said? See, I am not the man with the most highest recorded. There we have it. And there it is.
I was going to say, there it is.
And there we have it. So I'm going to ask you a question. We're going to get your response, and then we're going to compare it to the response of the woman with the world's highest recorded IQ. There, I said it right that time. Okay. Dear Monique, do you believe in human spontaneous combustion? If so, what do you think is the cause?
That's a good question. And immediately I get Buster Poindexter's Feeling Hot, Hot, Hot in my head.
Oh, boy.
And I think, is it real? And is that what goes through their mind when it starts to happen? I mean, I know there's been reports of spontaneous combustion. Ooh, this is a good one. I'm really pondering this. Because you want to say yes.
But if you say yes, you have to, what is the cause? What do you think is the cause?
Well, that's the thing. What would be the cause? Is it something natural, or is it something was introduced into the person's system causing it? That I don't know. My IQ is not high enough, I think.
Okay.
Do I think it's possible? Yes, because I think anything is possible. The reason, I think our bodies are pretty perfect. So I feel like there'd have to be some kind of element involved, some kind of factor to cause it.
All right. Well, shall I read her response then?
Sure, go for it.
Okay. I don't know of any verified cases where a human being has burst into flames without heat from an outside source, but such fires are certainly a very real and dangerous phenomenon in the home and on the farm. Some folks think that rags containing substances such as oil, paint, or polish should be stored away from their living quarters merely to avoid accidentally igniting them with a candle or a cigarette. This is not so. The situation is far more unpredictable than that. They may ignite entirely on their own. Coal is also subject to this problem, as is hay in the barn. Now, there's an addendum to her response that she put in this book, because that was originally her response in the newspaper call. Some folks wrote to me enclosing newspaper clippings reporting alleged occurrences of spontaneous human combustion, but none of them were substantial enough to make me believe it. After all, I remember walking by one newspaper with a headline that read something like, "Alien baseball found on top of Mount Everest."
Tremendous.
So there you go. So she doesn't believe in spontaneous human combustion.
I believe anything can happen. You never know. Never say never.
All right. Well, there you have it. I saw that and I went, this is a good one. just because.
It's funny.
It
became like a PSA and be careful. Don't leave those lit cigarettes around those gasoline-soaked rags.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, yes, good advice.
Yeah, that's pretty good advice.
Well,
sure.
because I think you hear stories and it's usually somebody fell asleep with a cigarette that was lit on the couch catches fire. But I don't think those were confused for spontaneous combustion. usually it's because they don't really know what triggered the cause.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving on from that, let's get into the show.
Let's.
So this week we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of stuff related to the late, great, immortal Hulk Hogan. So we just recently watched WrestleMania, and we talked about that in the past couple of shows. And we mentioned that during the commercials for WrestleMania, there was a lot of commercials for the Hulk Hogan Real American documentary. So it did come out, and we watched it. Now, I grew up in the 80s, as did you. Were you a Hulkamaniac growing up in the 80s?
Somewhat, but it waxed and waned. Depending on certain things. There were things I was still like, eh. But I wasn't watching when he went to WCW.
Okay. All right. Well, see, now for me, and I don't know if I've told this on the podcast before, but one of the first matches I ever saw of wrestling that made me fall in love with wrestling and want to see more of it was Hulk Hogan beating the Iron Sheik back in 1984. That was one of the first ones. And from there, it was like, yeah, I love this. This is awesome. And that's when I was like, I want to do this. I want to make people feel the way that made me feel. That was awesome. And again, it was just the crowd, the electricity of the crowd. And this guy had charisma through the nose. Like, this guy had so much charisma. Anyway, so we watched the Real American documentary first, right? Because we watched 3 different documentaries. So this documentary series was essentially, it was on Netflix. It's still on Netflix. And it was produced with the help of WWE, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. And so that, and basically that means that they were able to interview some people that work there currently or worked there when Hulk Hogan was in his heyday. And they also were able to use footage of Hulk Hogan in the WWE and subsequent WCW runs. And WWE owns all that footage. So they used all that stuff, which was great. The majority of the documentary was Hulk Hogan and his ex-wife, Linda Hogan. Or Linda Bollea. They always put Linda Hogan on the screen, but it's like, that's not the real last name. So, and same thing with like the son, Nick Hogan, and they did not interview the daughter, Brooke. But what'd you think overall of the documentary? I mean, it was just kind of like a timeline of how, like, it starts with Hulk Hogan as a child, growing up, getting into music, leaving home and getting into wrestling, and his rise through the ranks of pro wrestling.
I think overall, I feel like Terry Bollea, he filmed this before he passed away.
Yes, Terry Bollea is Hulk Hogan's real name, for those that do not know.
And I think it painted a bigger picture of who he really is, because most people just see Hulk Hogan and they hear him, but he's talking as Hulk Hogan. And, the running joke was just every time he told a story, it would get more and more out of proportion. And, some were just
further
lies.
Removed from reality. Yes.
Yes. And I feel like he was really honest. Like, nothing he said to me came off like, oh, that's BS.
For the most part, I thought this was the most candid that I'd ever seen Hulk Hogan on camera. I feel like anytime a camera's on, no matter who you are, you're going to perform to some extent, to some degree. But I feel like, this was the most honest that I've seen him. I guess, I mean, you never heard him talk like this about anything before in his life. So it was it was fascinating, to say the least. What did you think of Linda?
She always had to throw in stuff about their sex life.
Every time.
Yeah.
It was like every clip they showed.
He floated your boat. That's great. You're in a marriage. That's what you want in a relationship, right? But it was just interesting that if, she felt like she had to say that. You know what I mean? Like, she had to throw it in
like
there.
Always. Yeah, that was like nonstop.
Mm-hmm. What I got from watching it, and I could be way off base, but it came off to me like she loved him. She still loves him. She was really hurt by his actions. she admitted it. She wanted him to feel the way he made her feel.
Well, what are the actions you're speaking of? You're just kind of jumping into what actions are we talking about here?
During the documentary, they start talking about where their relationship started falling apart, and she found out that he was seeing another woman who was about the age of their daughter. And
No. It was said that it was Brooke who was their daughter. It was Brooke's friend.
That's right.
It was somebody that was working with Brooke, like her PR person. So
okay, I must have missed that part.
Yeah, no, they did mention it. It was very in passing, but the way it was worded, it was making it sound like it was Brooke's friend who's her age, and no, that was not the case. This was a woman in her early 20s, older than Brooke at the time. So it wasn't like it was Brooke's like high school friend or something.
Wasn't she like a teenage, like 19 maybe?
Who, Brooke?
Brooke.
She might have been. She was young. She was still very young, and pursuing a career she wanted to be like that ex Britney Spears kind of thing. But yeah, you're right. They did have he had relations in their bed. She found out, which obviously made Linda very angry.
Yeah,
justifiably,
as one would
justifiably so. But again, we don't know. See, that's the thing with all these things, all these type of stories. What led to that? We don't know what led to that. Why did?
Well, the documentary almost insinuated, like towards the end, because they had the show Hogan Knows Best, the reality show.
Yes.
And towards the end of it, there was more fighting, and it seemed like a lot of it was over money. Linda's spending of money, but you don't really know. You don't really know what's going on. You only know what they show you.
Yeah, of course. And that's why it's so difficult to draw a conclusion, because there's so many parts of it there's so many missing pieces, if you will, to the puzzle. So it's hard to really draw a conclusion. For me anyway, it's hard to draw a conclusion.
Yeah.
So you were saying she wanted to hurt Hogan because
of how he hurt
her. Yes.
But it seemed like she still loved him very much, and she kept putting him over, saying how great he was in bed and saying good things about him. So
how great he was in bed.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
What about you? Your thoughts on that?
On Linda Hogan? Yeah. She was. She kind of stole it for me. She stole the documentary for me. Every time she was on, I was like, okay, what's she going to say now? After the first little clip, I'm just like, okay, what's she going to say? Every time she was on, she'd say something. Yeah. So it was almost like she like out hulked Hulk Hogan in this with some of her remarks. Yeah. But essentially the story of it is, of the documentary. And again, it was his last interview, like you said, before he passed away. It was the last time he was interviewed for anything. I think the story they were portraying was that he started out as Terry Bollea, and then he found his way into this character of Hulk Hogan, and he explained how in wrestling you have to become over the top if you want to take it to the next level. You have to be whatever. You have to do something that makes you bigger than life, larger than life. And he did that. He figured that out. He found a way to do that. And essentially it was because he became this super patriotic character in the 80s when it was still cool to be that way.
And he took advantage of, what was really going on at that time.
Yeah, there was a lot of different things going on in the world and geopolitically, and so he took advantage of it. And it wasn't just him; it's whatever promoters and stuff that stuff always sells. And USA versus this country or USA versus that country, nationalism, patriotism, it sells tickets. It's one of the base primal instincts of people. You want to root for your own country against the foreign invader, right? So he takes advantage of that, and somewhere along the way, and he meets Linda during this time after he filmed Rocky III. And somewhere along the way, as Terry Bollea gets lost in the Hulk Hogan character, is essentially the story they're painting, or the picture they're painting, excuse me. So he gets lost, right? And then he gets to the point where it's about 1990, where he's kind of losing his luster, so to speak, for the audience of pro wrestling, the WWF at the time, the World Wrestling Federation. And so they decide, and this is where we're going to get off on a couple little side tangents. They decide to take the championship belt off of him and put it onto the Ultimate Warrior, who's going to be the new guy that's going to take and carry the business for a while. And this is where I got a little bit kind of, a little upset, a little miffed, if you will, because they interview Bruce Pritchard, who's, I forget what his title is now, but he's essentially one of the head creative guys at WWE. And they interviewed Paul Triple H Levesque, and who's also head of creative at WWE. And they started burying the Ultimate Warrior.
I didn't get it. Like, I thought you guys were on good terms, and there's a way to say we didn't have faith in him as a champion. We didn't think he was going to be able to pull off what we needed as champion. There were, better ways to say what they said. It came off like they just didn't care. We're going to bury him. Whatever, he's dead. What are you going to do about it?
And it was just very it was just weird to me because the Ultimate Warrior passed away in 2014 and he had come back to the company. He was inducted into their Hall of Fame and he died like 2 days later.
Yeah.
And he had come back. He'd made amends with everybody. Everybody was speaking glowingly of him and how much he changed for the better and how much they were glad to have him back. And then he passes away. And then they hired his wife to be in their creative department. I don't know how long she worked there for. She worked there for several years, though. They started the Warrior Award that they gave out at their Hall of Fame for several years, and then they dropped that. And it's like, almost like, okay, it's been 10 years now. We can just bury this guy again.
Yeah.
It was weird. It was like, why was that even, why did that have to be put in there?
It was so awkward.
Very petty sound. Just very
Yeah.
petty. I didn't get it. It didn't make sense to me. So that was perturbing.
It kind of soured everything.
A little bit. From that point on, it was like anything that they said, it was like,
And
okay.
I'm gonna just say it. Triple H came off like a dick about a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff. Yeah. It was like, whoa, okay. This is what you chose to say here. It was a little weird.
Was he in a bad mood? Was he really hungry before they filmed him? Did he need a
Did
Snickers?
he need a Snickers? Yeah. Right.
Because he's usually careful about what he says and how he says it. And we had mentioned he's talking like one of the boys.
Yeah. One of the boys being like he's still in the locker room with the talent. Like he wasn't speaking. It's almost like they told him, hey, we want to talk to you as a wrestler, not as a head of talent and as an executive. Because all his opinions, everything that he was saying, he didn't sugarcoat anything,
No.
which I guess I can appreciate to a certain extent. But at the same time, it's like it goes against everything he's been saying for the last decade in regards to the Ultimate Warrior thing.
And I look at it like, okay, you're the boss at WWE, you're head of creative. And if you're going to go shit talk somebody who's been dead for over 10 years now, it's not a good look. And I would think as an employee, oh, what's he going to say about me? If enough time is removed, or maybe even not a lot of time is removed.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. It was just very a part of me for a while was thinking, because I always used to hear the stories about Triple H back in the day being the politicker and backstage, like a backstabber and all. You'd hear those stories and you hear them from different talent and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, maybe he's changed because now he's matured. And then I'm just like, I watched this and I went, you know what? I don't think he's changed at all. I think that part of him is still there and it'll still come out when he wants it to. So it's like, okay, he's evolved, but he hasn't really changed. Like, he's still kind of a dick.
It makes me wonder what made him feel compelled to talk like that negatively about, the people he talked negatively about.
Yeah. And there's a few other instances, but
Yeah.
it's like, we're not going to go into everything. Watch the documentary. It's actually a good watch. It's good. It's, what was it? 4 parts? It was 4 parts. They're about an hour each, roughly an hour. So I think the final one might have been a little longer than an hour, and 1 or 2 of them may have been just around 50 minutes. So we'll say, roughly an hour was the average. But yeah, definitely worth watching. But yeah, that soured me a bit on Triple H. It's like, why? What was that necessary for? And it didn't really add to the story in any way, in my opinion. Like, you didn't have to
that's
say
the other
this guy
part of it.
sucked and
Yeah.
all this. It's like,
But
you
it
could have
wasn't
just
like
said
he
it
sucked.
It didn't work the way that we wanted it to. Would have gotten the exact same point across. You know what I mean? It's just,
It felt a bit like you beat the horse and then you kept beating it once it was dead.
yeah. It was, anyway. So you had that happen, and then Hulk Hogan saying that he went home for a little while, and and even Linda saying, and that was the other great thing about this documentary. There was Linda being the she, had home movies that she recorded throughout their entire relationship together. So you see them, like Hogan with the kids growing up. You see them doing different things, water skiing, on their boat, do all kinds of different stuff, playing in the house, driving. So there, you had like this, the filmmakers were able to put together these clips of from the home movies while they're talking about the time passing and everything, which was, I thought that added to it a lot.
It did.
It was cool to see their family in that candid, real environment, if you will. So I thought that was good. But yeah, you notice around 1990, Linda explaining that that's when Hulk was being home more. He wasn't the same that he was. And now, with their kids being born, he wasn't really the same as he had been. And it was almost like, and they're implying that it's almost like because he doesn't know how to be Terry anymore, because he's been Hulk for so long. It's almost like he forgot how to be Terry.
And that's something that kept coming up in these documentaries we watched.
Yeah.
Because I think there was a really good point. Everywhere he goes, he's Hulk Hogan. I mean, I don't even know how old I was until I realized, oh, that's not even his name.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I was probably like 11 or 12 before I found out that, his real name? Wait, you mean Hulk Hogan's not his real name?
And granted, when we were kids in the 80s and even like early 90s, like the internet wasn't what it was before. So it's not like you could just go look something up.
Wasn't what it was before. It wasn't even.
It wasn't existent.
It existed, but it wasn't like anybody had it yet.
Yeah. So it wasn't, you couldn't just go look something up. And that was the constant theme throughout all of these, is that he was always Hulk Hogan. And what do you do? Like, where do you have your private life? At home. That's the only place you can have it. Because if you go out to dinner with your family, well, you're Hulk Hogan. Everybody knows you as Hulk Hogan. If you go out in public, you're Hulk Hogan. And it's impossible to escape that. So you are living in character all the time. And now he's removed from that character because he's home. He doesn't have to be that character. But what I got from it wasn't just that, but also probably he felt really lost because his whole life is professional wrestling.
Right.
And that's gone. And it's a hard adjustment when you're used to a schedule and you're used to living a certain way and you're used to being away from your family. And now you're with your family all the time. It hits different. Plus, you're going through what I would think is a withdrawal of your passion, what you do for a living. He made plenty of money, but there's not that extra money coming in necessarily like there was when you're working. And I think, to me, that was probably a huge reason why he wasn't the normal Terry, as Linda explained.
Yeah. So he ends up coming back and then leaving again. And then the big thing was the appearance on the Arsenio Hall show, where he denied using steroids. I only used them twice, brother. My doctor prescribed them, one time for a bicep injury and one time for something else, whatever. But it was under the care of a doctor, and never used them other than that. And okay. Because at this time, what was happening in the U.S., they had finally decided they were going to classify anabolic steroids as if you had them, it was illegal to have them. I forget what is it, class 1, 2, 3, whatever, however they classified drugs. they finally classified steroids as an illegal drug, so it was like a felony if you had them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Hogan lied, went on the Arsenio Hall show, was asked point blank, and he just lied about it. And it was everybody basically did I think they explained it, I forget who said it, but it was like a facepalm moment, like a, like why, why would you do that? Just say it. Everybody knows, like everybody knew, it was obvious.
And what was really crappy is at the time, like it wasn't illegal and guys were doing it before it was an issue. And all of a sudden it seems like it changed so fast.
It
and
did.
if you did use it, you were the bad guy and he had to protect his image.
He had just put out the Hulk Hogan vitamins for kids. So yeah, of course he had the image to protect and everything. But as we've all learned throughout history, when you lie and then it comes back and hits you so much harder when the truth comes out. If he'd have just told the truth, it would have been.
And he even said, I wish I did.
Yeah, he did say that that's something he wishes he had never done.
But again, I get it. I'm not saying it was the right move, but I get why he did that. In his mind, he had to protect his image because he is Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. So he does that, and then Vince McMahon getting all the heat from that whole thing, it now essentially caused the federal government. Now they're looking for a reason to go after the WWE, Hulk Hogan, and Vince McMahon. They're looking for a reason now because he's essentially put a big target on them. So Vince takes Hulk again off of TV. This was 1992. And Hulk Hogan, they do this big interview where it's just to sit down with him and with Hulk Hogan and Vince McMahon. And Vince McMahon asks him, "Is this the end of Hulkamania?" And Hulk Hogan says, "I don't know. At the end of the day, I just don't know." And Vince McMahon says, "Thank you for all the memories. Thank you for Hulkamania." And Hulk says, "Thank you." It was like I'll never forget that whole interview. And then he does his match with at WrestleMania 8, and it's a big schmaz nonsense finish, and then you don't see Hulk Hogan again for about a year. And he comes back at the beginning of 1993.
Can we just back up to the whole steroid trial? Because there was something I didn't get.
The steroid trial hasn't happened yet.
Oh, okay.
The steroid trial is in June of 94.
Okay, because I have a question about that, because there was something I didn't get.
All right, put a pin in that. We'll come back to it.
Pinned.
So Hogan comes back at the beginning of 93, and at the time, Bret the Hitman Hart is the new world heavyweight champion. Perfect guy for this time, because now the federal government's investigating Vince and the WWF, and he puts on a guy who doesn't look like he's on steroids. He doesn't look like he's on anything. He just looks like an athlete, and the crowd's getting behind him. So that's the new champion. Well, Hogan now comes back, and the Hulkster wants that top spot. He wants that championship back. And so you had Bret Hart, who I thought was awesome in this documentary, just so honest and blunt.
Yeah.
Great. And basically Hogan was kind of a dick to him by all accounts, by Bret Hart's recollection of the events. He sees him backstage at WrestleMania 9. Oh, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I'm going to point out too, because Hogan had commented, I don't know, I might have been drunk or high, because he was talking about how he snubbed Bret Hart.
Yeah, Bret Hart said how he went up to say hi to him, and he held his hand out to shake Terry's hand, Hulk's hand, and he waited there for like 30 seconds, and Hulk didn't acknowledge him. So, and then Hogan saying, "Oh, I might have been drunk or I might have been high or something. I don't remember that, brother."
But what was interesting is earlier in the documentary, he talks about how his brother died.
Yes.
And it was drug related.
His older brother who had a drug problem, who he hadn't seen in many, many years, who found him or came to a show was it the LA Coliseum or the
Something
Forum?
like that.
Somewhere in California, and I think it was Los Angeles. And his brother came and saw him and was in real bad shape, he said, right?
He asked him for money.
And Hogan said, "All right, yeah, I'll give you money." He said he didn't want to give him the money, but he'd give him money, and then he said he wanted to take him to come with him, come with me, come on the road with me, come live with me, whatever, just to kind of help his brother out because his brother looked in rough shape. Well, apparently it was because he was, I didn't say what drugs, but he was heavily into drugs. And Hogan gave him the money, and what happened?
He died.
He died that night, wasn't it?
I think
he
so.
went out, bought drugs, overdosed, and died.
Yeah.
So, and obviously you could tell that bothered him. You could and he didn't really want to talk too much about it. He didn't want to get it. You could tell he was that's a subject that he just didn't want to discuss.
But he had commented how after that he stopped with all the drugs.
He did say that.
So then fast forward this many years later,
yes.
And I might have been high or drunk. And wait a minute, I thought you said you stopped.
I'm gonna defend Hulk Hogan here. I'm gonna say that he probably no, actually, I can say for a fact he didn't. But he was probably referring to cocaine because that was the big drug of choice in the 80s for everybody. Marijuana, I know he smoked marijuana. So maybe that's what he meant when he said he was high. Maybe.
But I'm just saying, for the normal spectator watching this documentary, it came off contradictory.
It did a little bit if you were paying attention, yes. It definitely, if you're paying attention and you're keeping score, yeah, it definitely came off contradictory. Now, whatever. I again, I don't know. We don't know. We just know what we're presented. So, anyhow, Hogan's back. They do this big, crazy, stupid thing at WrestleMania 9, and Hulk Hogan walks out with the championship. And it was, they had, who was it? Was it David Shoemaker? Was that his name? Who was the guy they had? It was they had
something like that.
Somebody. It might not have been him. I'm sorry, I didn't write anything down. This is all from memory. But he's essentially an author that talks about, he has a podcast that talks about wrestling, and he was saying how as a kid, it felt like it just didn't feel right that now Hulk Hogan all of a sudden is the champion again. Like he went to fight the evil giant for Bret Hart, who just got screwed out of the title, and he walks out as the champion. Like it just didn't feel
Shoemaker.
Right. It was Shoemaker. Okay. And he was just saying how it didn't feel right. And I'm thinking back and I'm like, I watched that one live. That was the first WrestleMania I watched live by myself in my house without friends. And I remember the end and just being like, I don't know how I feel about that. And I was a young kid. I remember just thinking that something about that just doesn't, and you can't really verbalize it or put it into words yet when you're a kid. You're not really sure why it doesn't feel right just yet, but it doesn't feel right. And yeah, that just didn't feel right. It felt so just wrong.
This is like a crazy analogy, but from like a kid's perspective. Yeah, that bully just stole my bike, but you go get it, and then you can have it. You can keep it.
Yes, there you go. That's the best analogy for it. Like, okay, yeah, he just stole the title, but go get it.
And then keep it.
Like, what?
Because we're friends, and I trust you.
Yeah, it was just bad. It was just bad, all around bad. So that was, so Hulk Hogan's back, but it was very short-lived. He lost the title a couple months later, and after that he was gone. He went to start filming a TV series called Thunder in Paradise. And at this point, Vince McMahon has been indicted by the federal government on charges of distributing anabolic steroids to his talent. It was a BS charge. I'm not going to get into the entire trial, but right before the trial, Hulk Hogan signed with World Championship Wrestling, which was the big competitor to the WWF at the time. The WCW was on the TBS network. It was owned by Ted Turner. And the company itself, WCW, was owned by Ted Turner. And he had put Eric Bischoff, who was at the time just a television announcer, but he somehow politicked his way into running the company, which is awesome. Kudos to him for that. And his first big acquisition was signing Hulk Hogan. He went to the soundstage where they were filming Thunder in Paradise in Florida. WCW at the time was filming television at the center stage, excuse me. It was the Disney Studios. They had like a soundstage there where they filmed one of their syndicated shows. And so Bischoff met with Hogan, and they came to an agreement to bring Hulk Hogan in as the top guy and be the face of WCW, because Eric Bischoff wanted to take on the WWF and become the number one company. So that happened, and then the steroid trial happens. And Hulk Hogan is the prosecution, the federal government's star witness.
They thought he was going to spill the
They
tea.
thought he was going to deliver Vince McMahon on a silver platter. Didn't quite work out that way. So Hulk Hogan gets on the stand and basically he tells the truth, but I guess that's not what the federal government was expecting him to do, or he just never told them what he was going to say, or just, oh yeah, brother, I'll say everything. Yeah.
Which is weird because usually you do a deposition.
You would think. So it was never clear because I told you how I listened to a podcast that recreated the Lapsed Fan Wrestling podcast for everybody that cares. Excellent podcast. But they did a whole series where they got the transcripts of the trial, and it was like over 40 hours of audio, maybe longer, where they give background on everything going on at the time, and then they reenact the trial, the whole trial. They go through it, and it was excellent.
I remember when you were listening to that, and at first I'm like, what are you listening to? And you told me, I'm like, oh, I started listening, like, oh, this is good.
It was
They did a
great.
good job.
Yeah, excellent. And so yeah, Hogan just basically, we didn't get the deposition. Is the point I was trying to get at. Sorry, but yeah, we don't know what was said in the deposition. We just know what was said during the trial, and basically, Hogan didn't give it. He basically cleared Vince with his testimony, in my opinion. The prosecution's star witness cleared the defendant.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead. What was your question now that you were going to ask about that? Let's unpin and talk about what you wanted to know.
So Hulk Hogan, Terry Bollea,
Yes.
star witness, saves Vince's hide essentially by saying, no, he wasn't dealing drugs. He wasn't supplying.
Yeah.
Vince is found not guilty. But yet
Correct.
Vince, afterwards, it seemed like he was shit-talking Hulk Hogan after. Like, he was still mad at him. And I was so confused because I thought, he just saved your bacon and you're giving him shit? I did not get why. So I feel I must have missed something.
You didn't miss anything. This is the thing. This is the part that I'm still unclear on. Vince, for whatever reason, still mad at Hogan for the steroid trial thing at the time. He was mad. I think he was upset that Hogan was going to testify for the prosecution. I don't know for sure. I'm just saying I think, because I don't know if it's ever been spelled out, and Vince has never said why. And the reasons he gave were kind of stupid. Like, but dude, that doesn't make any sense. Like, what? He called Hulk Hogan a liar, didn't he? Like, he called him a liar.
Yeah.
Nothing he said is true. And all it is like, dude, what he said got you off.
I know.
Like, what are you talking about?
And that's why I was very confused. And then he's moving his head around in the soft neck brace.
Yes, Vince McMahon allegedly had neck surgery and arrived to the court for the trial in a neck brace, which is what a baller move that is, right? And yeah, he's just moving his head around like he's not even wearing a neck brace. So it's like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Like, jeez, if you're gonna work it. But anyway, so yeah, it was just really weird. And I think maybe he was just upset that Hogan left him and signed with the competition, and then also just that the fact that Hogan agreed to testify for the prosecution. Now, what they don't talk about is why he testified for the prosecution. This did come out during that podcast that I was telling you about, where they were giving the background and everything. The reason Hogan agreed to testify is because they were going to go after Hogan for possession and for distribution of anabolic steroids as well. They gave Hogan's attorneys brokered a plea deal so that Hogan would not be prosecuted. He'd have immunity if he testified for the prosecution. So Hogan agreed to it. He did tell the truth. I mean, Vince was not selling drugs to anybody. He just wasn't.
But you can't say, yeah, he testified as the star witness for the prosecution, but it did no good because he told the truth and it basically showed that I'm not guilty. Like, how can you be mad at that? How could a reasonable person be mad at that?
And again, I think it was because Hogan left him and he felt betrayed. So he felt the need to just talk shit about Hogan.
On that point, though, we've talked about it before in previous episodes, like Vince McMahon is in a pickle, I think.
Yeah.
But Vince McMahon, king of, hey, it's not personal, it's just business. But yet anytime anyone else does anything,
that only works one way.
Yeah, exactly. It's always one way. He
Yeah.
can say he can do it, but nobody else can because he
Right.
takes it personally. But that's a whole other topic.
Yeah.
So go on.
All right. So then Hogan starts with WCW. And it's terrible because it's basically the Hulk Hogan nostalgia tour for the first few months. And I remember watching his first match there was he main evented Bash at the Beach against Ric Flair, who was the WCW champion at the time. So Hulk Hogan beats Ric Flair for the WCW championship. They did sell the building out. They actually did a really good pay-per-view buy rate at the time when that was a thing. That's how they measured success back then. And I remember watching it and being like, okay. Hogan was about, I'd say, 60 pounds lighter now from his heyday in the steroid era of WWF. So he was lighter. He definitely was moving differently. He'd aged. It happens to everybody. So it was like, again, yeah, just a big nostalgia type thing. And within a few months, like the WCW fans kind of liked him at first, but again, it was a nostalgia thing because that wore out quick. Within a few months, people are starting to boo him. And it's audible on and the announcers can't really hide it and cover for it too much because it's a big segment of the crowd is booing him, and he's supposed to be the big hero. He's supposed to be the good guy. It's Hulkamania running wild, brother. But it wasn't working. So,
and I want to point out too that everyone was saying we could see the writing on the wall. This wouldn't last. You're going to ride that nostalgia wave for a hot minute, and then it's going to die down. Everybody recognized that, except for Hulk Hogan.
Except Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan thought it was going to be 1985 again. And again, I think that's where that Terry couldn't face reality. He had to still be Hulk, and he had to be Hulk in his heyday. So eventually, WCW takes him off TV, and then he comes back and joins the Outsiders, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, and they formed the NWO, the New World Order of Wrestling. Brother.
Can I point out a comment
Yes.
Linda Hogan made that didn't quite make sense to
Sure.
me? And I wondered if she had a bit of the Hulk exaggeration in her, too.
I know what you're going to say. Go
She
ahead.
says how he asked, do I still have my black boots? And she's like, I pull out these, black boots from however long ago. And I pull out my black leggings and I'm like, here, try these on. And basically saying that this tiny little Linda Hogan, her black leggings would fit Hulk Hogan. Really?
And that's what he wore the first time he came out as Hollywood Hogan.
Yeah, the first time he wore her black leggings.
Yeah. All right. Sure. I question that one.
The math isn't mathing there.
Not really. So Hogan basically, he reinvents himself. He becomes a heel. Now he's Hollywood Hogan. And it worked. It definitely worked. Hogan as a heel worked. Nobody was expecting it, first of all. And then when it happened, he ran with it. All credit where credit is due. So he runs with it, becomes this monster heel. WCW turns around their business. They start beating the WWF in attendance, in pay-per-view buys, in television ratings. They're riding high for about a period of about 2 years, and then it just kind of starts to fall off a cliff again. And Hogan, again, goes away. And I have to say, at the time, Hulk Hogan had the greatest contract. However he negotiated this, I don't know. But he was getting like 25% of pay-per-view buy rates. So if like whatever the pay-per-view made, Hogan would get 25% of it, whether he was on it or not, which is amazing. Like what? Any TV show he was on, he got like a certain percentage of the ad revenue, I think. It's like just this crazy deal. And his merchandising deal, I don't know how the hell he pulled this one off, but he would get all of his merchandise, all of it. Not a percentage, he'd get all of it. So if you sold a Hulk Hogan t-shirt, WCW now, think about it, or Turner, they're buying the shirts. So say a shirt costs $2 and then you sell it for 15 or 20 back in the good old days when that's what those cost. Hogan would get all of that. WCW wouldn't even recoup their costs.
That's insane.
How does that
they
work?
at least recoup their cost in that.
He got all of it. So it's like, what?
Yeah.
And I remember also hearing stories about when guys, when they would have like action figures and things like that, you'd go to like a KB toy store or a Toys R Us, and say you buy a, I don't know, Chris Jericho or Ric Flair action figure, and it would ring up on your receipt. It would say Hulk Hogan. So all the UPC codes would skew for Hulk Hogan. So he'd get all this merchandising money for shit he didn't even sell. It was just anything wrestling related in WCW. He was getting all that merchandise money, which is crazy. So he had a hell of a deal. And also he had creative control in his contract. So he had final say on everything he did. You came up to him and had this great idea for this great storyline. If he didn't like it, that doesn't work for me, brother.
But the thing was, from what we had heard, even in other documentaries, it depended how it affected him. If he wasn't the big star of it, he didn't like it.
Right. Exactly. And it was, which is just, and kudos to him for negotiating it. You can't be mad at him for negotiating it. Hey, the company agreed to it. That's his deal. So more power to him. But it made for some pretty bad TV at times. And I remember one quick story. When Bret Hart first showed up in WCW, he had this idea for an angle, a storyline he was going to do with Bill Goldberg, who was one of the big stars there. And at the time, Goldberg was spearing everybody, knocking everybody out, beating them quick. And Bret Hart had this idea where, do you remember Back to the Future 3, where Marty McFly at the end, he puts on the cast iron, like the door from the wood stove?
Yes.
So Bret Hart had this idea where he would come out and challenge Goldberg, and Goldberg would hit the ring and spear him, but like knock himself out. And then Bret Hart would get up and take off his shirt and reveal that he had this metal chest protector on. And so Bret Hart pitched that and to Eric Bischoff, who was the head of WCW at the time. And Eric Bischoff said, well, I gotta see if Hulk's okay with this. And Bret Hart's like, wait, what? Why? What? This has nothing to do with Hulk. This is between Goldberg and I. And Eric Bischoff said, well, I got to go check. And so Eric Bischoff goes to Hogan with Bret Hart in tow and explains the whole thing. And Hogan, Bret Hart's words, Hogan looked at Bischoff and said, well, what's that got to do with me, brother? and Bischoff said, well, I just want to make sure that you're okay with it. And Hogan's like, yeah, why wouldn't I be? That's got nothing to do with me. And Bret Hart looks at Bischoff like, can we do this now?
That's weird.
Yeah, so it's kind of weird that's what was going on there. Hogan was getting say in everything, which is crazy, even stuff that had nothing to do with him. But anyway, so essentially Hogan leaves again. A bunch of drama happens and whatever. He gets Vince Russo, a former WWF writer, goes to WCW, becomes their head writer, and on a live pay-per-view has Jeff Jarrett get in the ring with Hogan for a match. Jeff Jarrett's the champion at the time, and Hogan gets in the ring with him, and Jeff Jarrett just lays down. Just lays down without Hogan touching him, and Hogan's looking around like, what the fuck? And then just gets down and covers him and pins him 1, 2, 3, and is the new champion, and then leaves with the belt. And so it's kind of like one of those things where like, what the fuck just happened? And Hogan's like, whatever, and he just leaves. And then Vince Russo comes out after Hogan leaves the building and cuts this profanity-laced promo just burying Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan's a piece of shit. He's out of the building. He took his belt and he left. He's a piece of shit. Blah, blah. Just all this shit like burying Hogan.
I remember we saw that in a different documentary, yeah.
Yeah, and just buries him. And so it resulted in a lawsuit where Hulk Hogan sued WCW and Vince Russo for defaming him and all this stuff. And it's like, what is going on? Like, it was just a crazy time. But that was the last you saw Hogan on WCW. That was it. And then WCW goes out of business. And then Hulk Hogan returns to the WWF in 2002 with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash as the original NWO. They showed this match. Hulk Hogan has at WrestleMania 18 with The Rock. And he's Hollywood Hogan, so he's the bad guy. But he comes out and The Rock at this time is at his peak popularity, but Hogan gets cheered in his match against The Rock.
Yeah.
And that was was not done by accident. Hogan did that shit on purpose. He totally did that. If you know anything about, if you're a wrestler and you watch that match, like I did, I was like, well, he turned the people because the way he was working, he's not an idiot. Hogan is a fucking master showman. He turned the people against The Rock and had them in the palm of his hand. That match is one of my favorite matches. If you can find that match unedited, because WWF has messed with the audio of it and stuff, but you can still watch the people and see how crazy they're going. It was excellent as far as like a match to watch for crowd reactions and just energy. It was awesome for that. So then Hogan gets a little bit of a run with the WWF Championship again, and they showed Triple H and a couple other people talking about how they were telling Vince, it's not a good idea. It's just a nostalgia thing. It's not. Don't buy too much into this, which he was right. But that crowd response in Toronto at WrestleMania was so overwhelming for Hogan. It was so crazy that it was like Vince, I guess, felt he had to do something to capitalize on it. So he did. He actually, Hulk Hogan beats Triple H for the title in 2002, and he has it for a couple months before finally being gone again. And this is where the Hogan Knows Best show comes up, and he starts filming that. And he's like in and out with the WWF at this point. He'd come in for like a couple months, do a few matches, and then be gone again. And that's what he was doing for the final part of his career there in the ring, as far as wrestling goes. And then we get into the Hogan Knows Best era. All that stuff happens. He divorces Linda. We find out about all that. And then is it around 2012 that the video?
2011.
2011
was made.
Is when the tape comes out. Right?
No, I believe 2011 was when the tape was made. We're talking about the sex tape.
Are we talking about the act or the tape itself?
The act
was in like 2007, 2008.
Oh, okay. No, so maybe it was, I thought 2011 was something. So maybe.
That's, I think, when it maybe came out.
Okay.
So Hogan, when he was going through his divorce with Linda, apparently obviously he's at a low point in his life. And he's staying because Linda now has taken the house, taken the kids, has most of the money, and the way he describes it, he's broke. So he's got nowhere to stay. He was staying in some apartment, and Bubba the Love Sponge, his friend, who's a radio DJ down in Florida, he invites him to stay at his house. And so he's like staying in the guest house at his place. And somehow, I don't know the ins and outs of this thing, but somehow Hogan or Bubba convinces his wife to sleep with Hulk Hogan to get him out of his funk, out of his terrible.
Help a brother out.
Help a brother out. Go sleep with him.
Cheer him up.
Go have sex with him. Sleep with him. So just this part is so just messed up. And so then Bubba, has surveillance cameras all around his house. We'll get into Bubba in a little bit, but he's got surveillance cameras everywhere. And so Hogan and the wife know that there's cameras in the house. And they know that they're being filmed, and they do it anyway. So good for them.
Now, Hulk Hogan claimed he didn't know. And I believe even Bubba's wife, Heather, claimed she didn't know that they were being filmed.
Right. They didn't know. Okay.
Maybe they forgot.
Sure. In the heat of the moment or whatever.
It was the heat of the moment.
Yeah. Careful with that. We might get flagged on YouTube for that. Goodness. So so that happens, and then the big controversy comes out. There's a Hulk Hogan sex tape. He has the lawsuit. He sues Gawker Media, and we're gonna get into all this stuff in more detail in our next episode because this one is a big one. And long story short, fast forwarding a little bit, but Hogan sues Gawker, wins a bunch of money. It was like over $110 million, I believe. And then he also sued a radio station and made like another 40 to 50 million. So he ended up making around $160 million. So his money problems were now gone. Again, good for him. And he's back in the WWF. He's doing various appearances and things, but then audio from this sex tape comes out, or it wasn't audio, excuse me, it was a transcript, was leaked to the media, and it's got Hogan talking a lot about his displeasure with certain black people that were in his daughter's life at the time. And he's using a lot of... I think it was
just like one particular person.
Yeah, okay, maybe. And he's using the N-word a lot, which we all know is a no-no. You don't say that word. And that got him fired from the WWE and basically blacklisted for a long time. He was like persona non grata there for a long time. And then I guess enough time passed and they forgave him or whatever. He went around. I guess he came and he apologized to the locker room. By many accounts, it was something that was insincere is how I heard it from different talent that were there. And
I just want to throw in, there is a conspiracy theory over the whole sex tape and everything that happened. And we'll get into that more in our next episode. Because like Trump's involved. There's like a whole lot going on.
Oh, there's a lot going on there. But the thing that I think a lot of people that were there when Hogan made his apology to the WWE locker room that they didn't like was that he told everybody, you guys have to be careful what you say because now everybody's got a phone, everybody's recording stuff. So I wish I'd have known that then. I would have been a little more careful with what I said. People taking it like
you're not sorry for what you said.
He wasn't sorry for what he said, just sorry that he got caught.
Exactly.
Is how it was coming off to people that were there listening to this. And so it didn't ingratiate him, especially with a lot of the black talent that was there. They were not very appreciative of it. Mark Henry has told stories about this and explained how he called Hogan and told him how upset he was about it, how bothered he was. And he told Hogan that I will go with you. I will go with you. We can have some talks. You got to do this. This is what's going to get people to forgive you. And he offered to help Hogan out and go around and just speak with him so that people could see that Mark Henry's in his corner and Hogan turned him down. So knowing that made me kind of like, yeah, it's not really good. And Mark Henry's not, why would he lie about that?
Yeah.
Like, he has no reason to.
What was interesting, though, is he was apparently really good friends with Dennis Rodman.
Yeah.
But
yes,
I feel like that they never got Rodman's side of what he was going through, how he felt about all that.
They didn't, but Dennis Rodman was at the most recent WWE Hall of Fame, and he spoke glowingly of Hogan. So he loved Hulk Hogan. And so, I mean, again, I think it was one of those, like, we don't know because we weren't there. We don't know all the ins and outs of everything, but essentially what he was filmed or recorded saying things that he was saying when he was angry about something. And everybody knows when you're angry, you say a lot of stuff that you look back on and wish you hadn't said because either A, you didn't feel like you don't really feel that way, or you know that talking like that's going to get you in trouble.
Well, I think sometimes too, when people are hurt, they say hurtful things because it's like they want those people, they want to take that hurt out on other people. And it's not always the best reflection of who they really are.
Yeah, but I think that the problem here is that when he had the opportunity to atone for this, it didn't seem like he was really atoning. It was more so it seemed more, like we said, more upset that he got caught than anything else. And he was trying to paint himself as a cautionary tale for the current talent. Don't say stuff because you never know who's recording, kind of thing. It's like, that's not really what you should be saying. No. But anyway. So we move on, and now they skipped over his second marriage because he did get remarried.
Yeah, they did skip over all that.
They completely skipped over it. And then
they go to his new wife.
They go to his new wife, who I think he met in 2021 or something. It was very recent. And that's who he was with up until he passed away. Am I missing anything? Because I'm trying to get to the end here to wrap up. Oh, that's right. He makes his return to WWE television in January of 2025 when Monday Night Raw debuted on Netflix.
Because he had Real American Beer, correct?
He had the Real American Beer sponsorship. That's right. He had the Real American Beer sponsorship. And also at the end of 2024, he decided he was going to campaign for Donald Trump to get Donald Trump reelected as president of the United States.
That's right.
And the way he explains it, when there was the assassination attempt on Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, that was enough for Hogan. Like, he never got into politics, never got involved in it before, but now seeing Donald Trump get shot at and them trying to kill him, brother, he had to get involved. Which, I mean, I guess as a noble reason, I suppose, and he always said that Trump was his friend, and they did have Donald Trump sit down.
Yeah, Donald Trump sat down for interviews about him, and they
yeah.
talked about his relationship, and that's going to come into play in the next episode too.
Yes, it will. So that Hogan now, the Monday Night Raw, the first Raw on Netflix is going to be in California. It's going to be in, was it Los Angeles?
I think it was.
I think it was Los Angeles, which is heavily, a very heavily liberal audience, liberal Democrat type audience, right? Left-leaning, whatever you want to call it, politically speaking. And so Hulk Hogan is a big Donald Trump supporter, a big Donald Trump guy or whatever. So he's the polar opposite of what that demographic, that audience would like.
Or want to cheer for.
Or want to cheer for. It's not 1985 anymore. And remember, politics has become so big and front and center in our pop culture now, too, which I feel it shouldn't be, but it is. That's the reality of it. So knowing that, they still wanted Hulk Hogan to be there because it was the way they presented it. Bruce Pritchard and Triple H presented it as it's kind of the old era, passing the torch and moving on and bringing in and ushering in the new era of wrestling. That's how it was presented. Yeah. So Hulk Hogan comes out and is booed out of the building.
Well, I just want to say, Hulk Hogan comes out with Jimmy Hart behind him waving the American flag.
Yes.
And I remember when we watched that, it was so awkward. I felt so bad for Jimmy Hart.
Yeah.
We mentioned before, we met him. He is like the sweetest guy.
Yeah.
He's so sweet. And just seeing and feeling that awkwardness, just keep smiling and waving the flag.
Oh, yeah.
Some little bad. Okay, just keep going. And they interviewed Jimmy Hart as well during the documentary.
Yeah.
And one thing I want to point out was kind of funny. They show him in front of his home, air quotes, and he's sitting on like a metal folding chair outside with the gate closed. And like the camera kind of comes up and he's like, oh, starts talking. I'm Jimmy Hart and portraying it like that's his house. But they never like show him going inside. He goes to the code box to open the gate, but they cut. And I was like, I don't think that's his house. It was this huge mansion.
Maybe it is. I don't know. It could be his house. I mean, by all accounts, Jimmy Hart is maybe that's what he spent his money on was his home. Maybe he just was always good with his money.
But it was just funny. I was like, I don't know, because it was just weird the way they did it. Like
the way it was done, yeah, it was kind of weird.
Did they do that on purpose so people wouldn't go there if it was?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
I just thought that was funny. But yeah, so Jimmy Hart and Hulk Hogan are getting booed out of the house.
Booed. Oh,
it was
so bad. But Hogan, just as the pro that he is, he cut his promo, did his thing, and Jimmy Hart awkwardly waving the flag behind him. And so they come back to Triple H, and I think that you hear the interviewer ask him off camera, did you know that was going to happen? Or didn't you think that would happen? And Triple H, like a matter of fact, just so matter of fact, like a dick.
Like a dick. Oh, yeah, I knew that was going to happen. It's like, you knew that was going to happen, so why the fuck did you book it? Why would you have that happen? You wanted to humiliate Hogan? Yeah, is that what you're saying? That's how it came off.
Because that's what it comes off as.
I wish they got more context from Triple H because it came off like, yeah, I knew that was going to happen. I wanted to bury him. That's how it came off.
That's how it came off because of his tone, just the way he said it. Oh, yeah, I knew that was going to happen. Like...
almost like this is payback for all the times that you rode in, you took the championships, you thought you were going to be the next hot thing, but it turned into the drizzling shits, and this is payback for all of it.
Yeah, exactly. It was just like...
that was just my interpretation, not what was said.
Yeah. And I got to say, one omission, speaking of all that, was we forgot to mention when one of the times Hogan came back was in 2005 at SummerSlam, where he wrestled Shawn Michaels, and Shawn Michaels just oversold like crazy.
But it was kind of great.
Made a mockery of it, but it was awesome, as only Shawn Michaels could do.
It was spectacular.
It was. And Hogan mentioned it too and talked about it. Yeah. So I wish they would have gotten Shawn Michaels to sit down for this to explain, but they didn't. But we know that Shawn Michaels and Triple H are best friends. So was this like kind of payback for that? Maybe that whole thing, or who knows? But it definitely came across like, oh yeah, I knew that was going to happen, and fuck him, kind of like.
Yeah.
He didn't say that, but that's how it came across. That was like his tone implied that. So it was very, very interesting. And oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say but there was that. So you have this not so great kickoff for Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
With WWE and Netflix. But I feel like with his beer, like he still had issues, because I feel like they kind of went from that to his death to like kind of jump. They didn't talk about like the beer, and there were lawsuits with the beer because somebody got like, he'd throw beer out into the crowd.
Yeah, he'd make appearances and do like signings and meet and greets promoting the real American beer. And yeah, he would throw up beer out like to wherever he was at.
And somebody got hit.
And somebody got hit in the head, I guess, and they sued him and all this stuff, right?
I felt like they skipped over a bunch.
Well, I mean, there's so much. I know,
there's only so much.
There's so much to the story.
Then it hopped into his health.
His health issues, where he's had so many back surgeries.
And that was something else they brought up, was all the surgeries. And they didn't get into crazy detail, but they did bring up all the surgeries, the back surgeries, the neck surgeries, the knee surgeries, and
hip replacements.
Yeah, and how that affected him. Now we're kind of at the end of it, and that he was going in for neck surgery, and they were saying like, we wish he didn't, because it was like he didn't really need it.
Well, it wasn't that he didn't need it. It was more so that you've been living with this for so long, and the risks associated with this type of surgery, are they really worth it? Because you've been living like this, you've been dealing with it. Why take the risk? Because he's so old. I mean, what was he, 71 when he passed away, I believe?
Around that.
And I think that was the thing, that his wife had mentioned it, and also I know Bubba the Love Sponge, on a separate interview that I had listened to apart from this, had also mentioned it, that you've been dealing with it, just deal with it. Don't go get this surgery because it's too risky at your age to have this type of. And I don't know the exact procedure, but that's how it was explained. So there was a lot of trepidation from the family. They didn't want him doing it, but Hogan, hey. Unless you're living in the guy's shoes, and it sounds like the guy was in constant pain, and I can relate to a certain degree, not to that extent, but I can see where, you probably get tired of feeling that way all the time, and again, he was doing a dangerous amount of pain pills. He was what was the fentanyl? The fentanyl, the doses that he was taking. It's like, if he was being truthful, that's just appalling. If he was exaggerating, it's still appalling. Either way, like I don't know. Was he telling the truth on this? I would like to think he was, just because it seemed like he was telling the truth for most of the other stuff.
I thought his family even came out and said how he was on such a high amount of fentanyl, and they were the ones who caught it and were like, "This will kill you."
That's right. Yeah, you're right. I think that's what did happen. You're right. So yeah, it was insane. So the guy was in a lot of pain, but dealing with it, pushing through it, making all his appearances, doing all the stuff that he was going to be doing. They didn't mention he started Real American Freestyle, which is a amateur collegiate style wrestling, but they have like matches, and it's essentially like they're having storylines and things like that. And he had started that. They didn't mention it on here because it is a competitor to WWE, but that is a business that he started. That's something else he started with Eric Bischoff, and now Nick Hogan is involved in that venture as well. But that was something else that he was doing at the time, and so he was making a lot of appearances for that. And unfortunately, he passed away before he could actually take part in the first show. But that was kind of the ending of the series, and they showed like his funeral. They showed people talking at his funeral and things like that, and people gave their final thoughts and stuff like that about him. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, say what you want about Hulk Hogan, he was definitely, in my opinion, in my lifetime, the most recognizable pro wrestler there was, because you could at anywhere, you can go anywhere in the world, people know the name, they'll know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
So,
and again, you get a very bigger picture of how hard it is for him to escape.
Yeah.
that Hulk Hogan persona.
Yep.
And then you realize kind of the more you get into it, how almost that denial factor of Hulk Hogan, it's got to be this and this is going to succeed, just because of how big it was and how, like, when you're a character, the same character as an actor for so long, it's kind of hard to get out of that. And I do think lines blur here and there into who's Hulk Hogan, who's Terry Bollea. But I thought it gave a better picture of it all.
Yeah. And I mean, if you want another example of that, that's still happening, Ric Flair.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he himself has said he doesn't know who Richard Fleer is.
Yeah.
He said it himself. He doesn't, because he's been Ric Flair for so long. He doesn't know who that other guy is. So, I mean, when you live your life a certain way and as a certain identity for so long, it can be difficult, especially at that level and to that extent. So, but we definitely recommend watching the Hulk Hogan Real American documentary series. If you were a fan of Hulk Hogan, even if you weren't, it's a fascinating watch just to see the psychology of somebody and just to see the evolution of somebody and how they go from nothing. They become something, and then they get lost in that image that they've built and that the public has helped to also perpetuate and create and amplify. How easily somebody gets lost and how easily it can happen when you toss fame, money, influence, all that into it. It's just really incredible how even a guy that had a wife who obviously was crazy about him and 2 children can forget who he really is because that character has taken over so much of his identity. Very fascinating watch. They had Werner Herzog, the filmmaker, in there. They had a lot of people that I was really surprised, and I was surprised they got Donald Trump to sit down for it, but definitely worth a watch. So like Monique said, we're going to split this one up because it is a big story, but we figure we'll lay the groundwork about who Hulk Hogan was, and if you're going to follow along and get into this story with us,
because there's some conspiracies happening that we haven't touched yet, and we're going to get into the conspiracy.
Next episode, yes.
So
this will be obviously 2 parts, and who knows how deep we're going to get. We haven't recorded the next part yet, but maybe it'll be 3 parts. We'll see how deep we get into stuff. But until next time, I am the Golden Greek, Alex Arion. I've been joined as always by my beautiful, lovely, gorgeous wife, Monique.
And you've been listening to the Homewrecker podcast.
We love hearing from and interacting with our hearers and watchers. Feel free to reach out to us on Twitter
at HomewreckerPod.
You can also visit our website,
homewreckerpodcast.com,
where you can check out past episodes and pick up some Homewrecker Podcast gear from our online store.
Also, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you're hearing or watching our show. That way you can be notified whenever a new episode drops. We're on all major podcasting platforms, and you can check out the video versions of our show at YouTube and Brighteon.
You can also find Monique in a few places online as well.
I'm on Twitter @_MoniqueGiselle_. If you're interested in a tarot reading, orgonite, incense, candles, and other cool things, you can go to my website, tarotbymonique.com. Or if you're interested in hypnotherapy, you can go to innerstandingshypnosis.com to schedule a free 20-minute consult. And follow me on Twitter @MoniquePCHT. And Alex, how can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter @TheAlexArion, and you can check out my website, AlexArionFitness.com.
And if that's too much to remember, we get it. That's why we put it all in our show notes.
Thanks for spending your time with us, and we appreciate all of your support.
We do. Thank you. We love you. Many people are unaware just how much hypnotherapy can help them, or think it's only to help lose weight or quit smoking. But there is so much more hypnotherapy can do. It can help with stress, anxiety, insomnia, phobias, performance enhancement, connecting with your spirit guides and higher self. You can even discover past lives and your life between lives. Heal traumas, break habits, find your deepest truth, or just have fun discovering who you really are, all from the comfort of your home. I'm Monique Pliakis. I'm a certified hypnotherapist and I want to help you. Schedule a free consult by going to www.innerstandingshypnosis.com. That's INNERSTANDINGSHYPNOSIS.com. Inner Standings Hypnosis. Find your power and ignite your inner light.